Part 34. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 331. Even though their relationship has made great progress now, the intimacy level of helping each other take a bath is too high. When Ji-Fei was not sober, Qin Xian felt that this request was inappropriate. So Qin Xian took out his mobile phone and contacted his sister and younger sister. He hoped that they would come to help. So in the family group without them, the two sisters almost complained at the same time, "Who knows the family members? Qin Xian actually asked me to help his wife take a bath. Qin Dad, no future. Qin Mom, how could I give birth to such a son? Qin Xiao, didn't the second sister-in-law deliberately give the second brother a chance? You must not go." So the two pretended not to see the message and didn't reply at all. Qin Xian waited for a long time without a reply. Ji-Fei, who was lying on the bed, was already angry. After all, she was hot and humid all over after playing all day, and she was very uncomfortable. No one cared about her, so she took it off by herself. When Qin Xian gave up the contact and planned to help Ji-Fei wash and get through tonight, he turned his head and his breathing stagnated directly. The moonlight shone through the window onto the soft bed and the fair and delicate skin. The beautiful naked body tried to get up. After Qin Xian's brain crashed for a few seconds, he didn't know where to look until he saw Ji-Fei was about to fall. Then he rushed up anxiously and took the fallen person into his arms. In an instant, Qin Xian felt his nose getting hot. He didn't have time to think about it. He felt Ji-Fei struggling in his arms. "I want to take a shower. I want to take a shower. It's uncomfortable." Qin Xian was at a loss, and felt hot all over. At this point, he could only try to stay calm and carry the person into the bathroom. As soon as he entered the bathroom, he saw his embarrassed self in the mirror. Not to mention his blushing face, his nosebleeds even flowed out, and his body. He reacted the moment he saw his wife. But the person in his arms didn't let him go. He was restless even when taking a shower, and he was so annoying. After all, Qin Xian was also a mortal. He couldn't bear it and pushed the person against the cold wall, kissing him wantonly. When Ji-Fei woke up, it was already noon. The hangover headache was very tormenting, but her body was dry and comfortable. She got up and found that Qin Xian was not there. She picked up her phone and saw that there was indeed a message for her. It was from her grandfather who wanted to talk to him. She asked her to contact him when she woke up and he would pick her up. Ji-Fei laughed in her heart. Was she a child? She still needed adults to pick her up. She got up, and her silky nightgown fell. For a moment, Ji-Fei always felt as if she had forgotten something. When she came to the bathroom to wash up, she held a toothbrush in her mouth, looked around, and saw the bathroom next door, and her memory came back immediately. For a moment, Ji-Fei felt that her whole body was burning. Last night, they were here. The lingering kiss was not important. What was important was that Qin Xian, who couldn't restrain himself, kissed her like that while dealing with his reaction by himself. The deep breathing overwhelmed the sound of the shower and entered Ji-Fei's ears. Ji-Fei, who was drunk and dazed, did not react at the time. Until now, when he recalled it, his face was almost red enough to drip blood. His mind seemed to automatically piece together the beautiful scenery of the bathroom last night, making Ji-Fei, who was immersed in fantasy, feel surging and shy, and his mind was full of garbage. So when Qin Xian entered the room, he heard Ji-Fei's inner voice roaring. "Damn, is it really not possible? I was naked and standing in front of him, and he solved it by himself. Don't I have any face?" Qin Xian, originally, he thought that was disrespectful to Ji-Fei, and he reflected deeply after he sobered up. When Ji-Fei heard the noise, Qin Xian was already standing behind her. When she turned around and met Qin Xian's shy but tender eyes, she immediately restrained her ability to talk nonsense. But her eyes were still quite dissatisfied, especially when she saw Qin Xian was already dressed neatly in a casual summer outfit, not to mention that he was covered up tightly. Anyway, there was no benefit at all. What a loss, he has seen me naked, and I haven't seen him naked yet. The more Ji-Fei thought about it, the more curious she became, and her eyes moved down to the position that made Qin Xian's body stiff. It should be big. Qin Xian. What are you thinking about? It seems that only she can think legally and reasonably. Qin Xian felt that she was about to smoke, and could only speak to try to divert someone's attention. As a result, before she opened her mouth, she heard Ji-Fei's voice as if she had made some kind of determination. Find an opportunity to get him drunk, watch him being stripped naked without any resistance, and then use his hands to bathe him, he. Qin Xian's voice was hoarse and he couldn't speak. He slowly lowered his head due to the heat, and subconsciously calculated in his heart how many cups he would have to drink to get drunk. The two did not mention what happened last night, and each had his own little thoughts. When changing clothes, Ji-Fei was shy for a moment. After all, Qin Xian had helped her put on her underwear. I thought that was the end of it, but when Ji-Fei went downstairs to meet other young people, she saw Qin Yan, Qin Xiao and Qin Rong looking at her with a smile, and when she went to the old house for dinner, she saw Qin's father and mother also looking at them vaguely. Originally, because of sleeping late, Ji-Fei was quite embarrassed to the other Qin family members, but she found that the elders looked at them with a very funny look. Ji-Fei was suspicious and couldn't help whispering to Qin Xian, "Is there anything I don't know?" Qin Xian certainly knew what it was. After all, he had been ridiculed by the whole family since he got up in the morning. "I don't know what my parents said to my grandfather and aunt." Anyway, they all looked at him with a look of relief. Faced with Ji-Fei's question, Qin Xian naturally explained the matter of asking the sisters to come to help at the beginning. Now even Ji-Fei looked at Qin Xian with a dissatisfied look. Is it necessary to avoid suspicion so much and take care of my innocence? This guy is not going to divorce me. At the whole dining table, the adults in Qin Lao's family coughed in an instant no matter what they were eating or drinking. Others looked at them strangely, thinking that their family was really tacit, and they could eat together even if they choked. Qin Xian's expression froze, and he quickly dispelled Ji-Fei's doubts, holding Ji-Fei's hand under the table, leaning over, and whispered, "You are not feeling well when you are drunk. I'm afraid that I can't control myself, and you will suffer." This sentence immediately made Ji-Fei's ears hot, and she was coaxed instantly. I knew it, he said he liked me." Qin Xian's eyes softened in an instant, and he could almost describe how much he liked Ji-Fei with his eyes. Seeing the two of them being affectionate and showing off their affection to everyone at the table, the other relatives who were not very reassured about the couple were relieved. No matter how it started, at least the two of them are in love now. Without the spoiler, this lunch was even more enjoyable. In the afternoon, everyone was going to take the first few people out to play. But Qin Yi received a call halfway through. In an instant, his face changed suddenly, and his eyes instantly looked at Yang Weiwei, who was taking pictures with everyone in the square in the distance. At this time, only Qin Xian was sitting next to Qin Yi, and the two of them looked like adults who were playing with a group of children. Qin Xian was checking the information from his subordinates on his mobile phone. After all, several investigation instructions were issued yesterday. The first order to be completed the fastest was to investigate the cheating of his cousin's brother-in-law Yang Feng. All kinds of evidence were received at this moment. Qin Xian also noticed that his cousin next to him looked wrong and asked, "What's wrong?" Qin Yi stood up anxiously and said, "My brother-in-law had an accident during the inspection. He is now being rescued. The situation is critical." After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Use. Chapter 332. After all, they were relatives, and a large group of people rushed directly to the hospital without saying anything. Ji-fei frowned and sat in the car. Could it be retribution? The truth about his scumbag has not been exposed yet, but something happened first. Let me see. When I was checking the project, I was hit by a heavy object. This project was still a project that I had mentioned to Qin Xian before. No wonder Qin Xian not promising. The location is not good, the construction is difficult. If you can't find a top team, it will be difficult to complete the project, and the teams that can do these projects have been booked by other projects, so it is simply unrealistic to start this project recently. But Yang Feng just asked Qin to invest more money, and he casually found a team. Now, he was the first to win the jackpot because of improper site preparation before construction started. The brothers and sisters of Qin Lao's family all heard this and couldn't help frowning. This matter was very bad. He could only say that he was the cause and no one else could blame him. When they arrived at the hospital, they saw an old couple giving Qin Wenqiang a hard time. Yang Weiwei had already heard about her father's accident. When she saw her mother being scolded, she rushed forward. "Grandpa, Grandma." The two old men didn't look good when they saw their granddaughter coming. They were still immersed in grief and shouted to Qin Wenqiang. "It's all your fault. If you hadn't been procrastinating and refused to help your husband find the Qin group to negotiate for the project, my son would not have gone to the construction site to find a solution today. It was all your fault. Our old Yang family is like this, a single seedling. If something happens to him, I won't be alive, and you will have to be buried with my son." Granny Yang cursed in grief. Although Eunuch Yang did not speak, his eyes were red and he looked at Qin Wenqiang angrily. If it weren't for Ji-fei's previous thoughts, listening to the two people's words now, I would really think that Yang Feng was innocent. Now at least Qin Lao and his family feel that this old couple is just making trouble unreasonably and looking for an outlet. Qin Yi immediately stepped forward to support Qin Wenqiang, who was already unsteady. Seeing her sister's grief, she felt very distressed and said rudely to the two old men, "I know you are very worried about your brother-in-law, but my sister is also very worried. No one wants anything to happen to my brother-in-law, but I definitely can't blame my sister." The couple were furious and were about to speak when they heard the sound of mighty footsteps. When they turned their heads, they saw many people walking over. "You two should sit down and wait for the news. If you keep arguing, the hospital will evict you." Qin Chao raised his eyebrows. "This hospital is invested by the Qin family. If you drag my eldest cousin along like this, it will not be conducive for her to help her brother-in-law handle things," Qin Jing said. The child is still here, it's better to be careful when talking to the two elders." Qin Xiao didn't like these two old people either, so he said bluntly. There is no need for anyone else to say anything. The momentum of supporting Qin Wenqiang was there, which made the couple feel that they were unable to defeat four hands with one fist. They were defeated and did not dare to act recklessly. Without them, and with her mother's family coming over, Qin Wenqiang quickly stood up and looked for people to ask about the situation. Even though she knew she had to wait for the results of the operation, she still wanted to know more. Soon, the operation was over, and there was no miracle. The doctor came out and shook his head, saying that he had tried his best, but it was really impossible to save. He asked the family to go in and say goodbye. It didn't take long. In an instant, the sound of crying and shouting could be heard in the corridor. Ji-fei and others who disliked Yang Feng felt uncomfortable when they suddenly learned that a person was about to die. They did not enter the ward, but waited outside. The twins were instructed to pick up their aunt and uncle. After all, they were their sons-in-law, and they were also here to see them off. Soon, relatives from the Yang family also came. There were too many people in the corridor, so Qin Xian asked Qin Chao and Qin Rong to stay and see the situation. He took Ji Fei out to get some air, and Qin Yan naturally took Qin 11 out as well. Qin 11 also helped hold Yang Weiwei's bag in her hand, with a very sad expression. In the garden behind the hospital, many patients or family members were walking. Qin Yan took Qin 11 to find a bench and sit down. Ji Fei couldn't sit still, so Qin Xian walked around in circles with Ji Fei. Ji Fei was filled with worries and couldn't help but think, everyone is going to die, so when will the eldest cousin know about the affair? If I tell it, will my eldest cousin will blame me? What if she prefers to cherish the memory of her loyal husband? But if it were me, I definitely wouldn't want to be deceived. Oh, I'm so annoyed. Why don't you give Qin Xian a hint and ask him to investigate? Then Qin Xian can be annoyed with me who made us husband and wife. After all, we are his cousin. Naturally, Qin Xian would not let his wife worry, so he said directly, there is one thing. Ji Fei was stunned and looked up at Qin Xian, only to find that Qin Xian suddenly frowned and looked at the bench not far ahead. There were several people on the other side of the bench. A beautiful woman was holding her daughter and crying. Her 3 sons were also circling the woman with red eyes. There was a man standing next to him, pacing back and forth. Sister, why don't we go up? He is going to die. If we don't go, we don't know what will happen. I want to go too, but now that it's exposed, I don't know if it will be worse. It's all his fault. Why was he so careless? I asked him to prepare it for us, but he... Ji Fei frowned slightly. These words sounded strange. Qin Xian pulled Ji Fei back a few steps to ensure that the people in front of them could not hear their conversation. Fei Fei, the women and children over there are the lovers and illegitimate children of cousin Yang Feng, Qin Xian said directly. When Ji Fei heard this, the word ha appeared on his forehead and he couldn't react. Qin Xian said calmly, when Yang Feng came to me to talk about the project, I saw that there was a problem with the structure of his new company. He actually made profits on the assets without my cousin's knowledge. Because I felt strange, I sent someone to investigate, and then it was found that Yang Feng was keeping a mistress and a mistress outside, and had many children. Ji Fei was shocked. She didn't expect Qin Xian's gossip efficiency to be comparable to the system. Qin Xian nodded in agreement. I just received the information from those people today, so I recognized them. It was them. Ji Fei suddenly became excited. Then, what should we do? Qin Xian frowned and said, of course we have to tell my cousin, it's just a matter of timing. If they behave themselves, then we won't tell them for the time being. Let's wait until my cousin passes this level. Ji Fei nodded. That's right. We can't just keep hitting them. But if they are restless, we must let my cousin know immediately, otherwise. Ji Fei didn't react for a while, and the woman's phone suddenly rang in front of her. The woman immediately picked up the phone. Mom, how is Yang Feng? Ji Fei was stunned. Is this mother calling Grandma Yang? What? You want Yang Feng to divorce Qin Wenqiang now? Ji Fei and Qin Xian. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 333. A dying person wants a divorce. What kind of operation is this? Was it Yang Feng's parents' idea? Are we going to have a showdown about raising a mistress with an illegitimate child? Neither Ji Fei nor Qin Xian could understand. Ji Fei was about to use the melon eating system to check. But the mistress became more and more excited as she talked, and even had a smile on her face. Okay, we will cooperate. We will definitely cooperate, but, Mom, do we really not have to go see Yang Feng for the last time? We really can't bear to leave Yang Feng, you. He could not hide the smile on his face, but he still did it. He looked like he was crying. Finally, He hung up the phone with a sad look. "Sister, what's going on?" Xiaosan's brother asked anxiously. The mistress suppressed the curvature of her mouth, told the children to stay away, and then said to her younger brother, "Yang Feng still has a conscience, and he knew how to arrange for us before he died. He wanted to use his last time to divorce Qin Wenqiang, and let Qin Wenqiang choose clean yourself up and leave home." "What?" the third brother said in shock, "how is this possible?" Ji Fei and Qin Xian were both confused after hearing this, and had the same questions as the third brother. "He's almost dead, how is it impossible?" In addition to the joint property of the couple, Qin Wenqiang also has a lot of premarital property. Those things brought by the Qin family cannot be moved, but if you want to leave all the remaining things to Yang Feng, you can. The third brother still found it incredible. "She can't agree." Yang Feng teamed up with two old men to persuade Qin Wenqiang. Divorce is just a legal procedure to leave all assets to Yang Feng. After Yang Feng dies, the inheritance will be inherited by his parents. This is tantamount to reassuring his parents in disguise, lest his only son dies after his death. Two old people with nowhere to go. Qin Wenqiang will definitely swear to support her parents-in-law until they grow old, and she will even sign an agreement, Xiaosan's younger brother said doubtfully. The mistress was proud, but Yang Feng said that he was worried that she would remarry and have children with others. She couldn't guarantee it, right? And the Qin family is so rich, why should they care about these assets? Leave them all to the old man, and feel relieved for the old man. What's the matter? Moreover, the two immortals have promised that their property will still be left to their granddaughter after their death. In fact, it is just to give them psychological comfort in the remaining time. "Ah! Leave it all to that little bitch," the third brother said anxiously when he heard this. "Don't those two old immortals dislike that little bitch the most? You are stupid. You are putting on a show for their mother and daughter. If you put it this way, Qin Wenqiang will definitely feel free to indulge this dying person's final willful request. She will think that it belongs to her daughter anyway. But, as long as the assets reach to Qin Wenqiang can't control how things are transferred to us in the hands of an old immortal, right? Her daughter won't get a penny by then, but she can leave the job of taking care of the two immortals in the hospital to them." Ha ha ha. The younger brother also understood and immediately became happy. "Then aren't we developed? Wait, what if the Qin family knows that they won't retaliate against us? We didn't do anything. It was all designed by them. After that, we went abroad directly and waited for the immortal to give us money. We just have to enjoy it." The more the mistress talked, the more excited she became. After all, she was a lover and gave birth to a child. It's really troublesome to coax a man. Now that the man is dead, aren't good times coming? When Ji Fei heard this, she finally understood what the divorce was about, and she was so angry that she almost spewed blood. Qin Xian had already silently taken out his cell phone when he was halfway through listening, and started recording with practice. The two of them talked and laughed and called a few children to leave the hospital. At this moment, Ji Fei realized that those children were not worried because of their dying father, but they were just worried because they saw their mother crying. Now I heard that everything was fine. Even if their father died, their lives would not change, and now they could leave this dreary hospital. They were all noisy about where to go to eat. It was so terrible to be taught. Someone actually asked, "But what if Dad runs out of money? If Dad dies, he won't be able to make money for us." "Don't worry, it won't happen one day, but if it does happen, remember, you still have a sister from the Qin family who can support you. My children are all pampered, and they are destined to be supported throughout their lives. Want to live a good life." After the mistress finished speaking, a group of people left the hospital with a big smile. Ji Fei's face turned green with anger. He gritted his teeth and turned to look at Qin Xian. For a moment, he didn't know where to start. Qin Xian put away his phone. "Don't worry, Even if my cousin is deceived and agrees, it will take time for the lawyers to come, and they won't succeed. Then let's go tell our eldest cousin quickly. Ji-fei immediately pulled Qin Xian around excitedly, preparing to go back to the ward. As soon as they turned around, both of them froze. They saw Yang Weiwei standing not far behind them. She was holding her bag, which Qin 11 had helped hold before, and she seemed to have come down to look for it. What a sin! It turned out that she went out with everyone before and bought a gift for Yang Feng and put it in her bag. Now it was the last time those people wanted to persuade Qin Wenqiang to divorce, so they kicked out the child. Yang Weiwei first she thought, I gave my father the last gift, only to hear. The little girl's face was as pale as paper, her eyes were blood red, but her face was blank, but her cheeks were already covered with tears, and she was crying silently. Ji-fei rushed up quickly, and Yang Weiwei seemed to have just woken up, breaking down and crying instantly. Obviously, Yang Weiwei had heard everything. At the age of just over 10, how could she bear such a big shock? She couldn't be persuaded at all. No matter how Ji-fei hugged and comforted her, it was useless. Qin Xian was so anxious that he didn't know how to comfort the child, so he could only stand aside in silence. Yang Weiwei cried so loudly that Qin Yan and Qin 11, who were far away, came over. Didn't you go back? Qin Yan asked in surprise, what's going on? Qin 11 immediately came to comfort her little cousin. As a result, Yang Weiwei turned around and rushed into the hospital. Ji-fei and others could only follow her. When they arrived in front of the ward, they found that Qin Yi was also frowning outside the ward waiting. Qin Chao and Qin Rong were accompanying him. They were very puzzled when they saw them coming, especially when they saw Yang Weiwei crying and running. Qin Yi was surprised and wanted to hug Yang Weiwei, who rushed over, but Yang Weiwei directly opened the door and rushed in. At the same time, the sound inside also came over. Wenqiang, this is my last request. My parents are not so smart and calm. They don't understand anything. Only in this way can they be assured and I can leave with peace of mind. Anyway, it will all belong to our Weiwei in the end. Just treat it as my last willful act. Find a lawyer. I really don't have much time. You don't want me to die with unrest, Yang Feng said weakly. But, this doesn't make sense, Qin Wenqiang choked with pain. Cough cough cough, just promise me, just treat it as my plea. Cough cough cough. Don't be like this, okay, I promise, I'll contact a lawyer right away. Qin Wenqiang stopped crying because Yang Weiwei had hugged her. Mom, don't. After The Wife of a Wealthy Family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 334. The three people who were originally happy that Qin Wenqiang had finally been fooled into agreeing to the marriage were immediately shocked and angry when they heard this. In such an emergency, the last word is the most taboo. Weiwei, Qin Wenqiang was sad. After all, her husband was dying, and she wanted a divorce before he died. How could ordinary people accept it? She could only think that her husband was afraid and confused before he died. He was foolishly deceived by his parents and wanted to seek a stable life for his parents, so he did such an unreliable thing. Although Qin Wenqiang firmly believed that her morality would not lead to the situation of forcibly occupying her husband's inheritance, her parents-in-law did not believe it and still made a fuss. This was simply tossing her husband's last days. Forget it, it would be Weiwei in the future anyway. If she had to go through this process, she didn't care. For her and Yang Feng, they were husband and wife, and the so-called divorce was just a legal guarantee for the assets. Facing the final request made by her husband, who had been married for more than 10 years, even a strong woman like Qin Wenqiang would not be suspicious for a while. But now, looking at her daughter's appearance, Qin Wenqiang thought that Yang Weiwei had accidentally heard that they were going to divorce and had misunderstood, so she quickly said, Weiwei, don't cry, Your father and I are not really going to divorce, we are still your parents who love you the most. Yang Feng also said with a chuckle, Wai Wei, don't be willful, this is what your mother and I have discussed, don't waste time. But Yang Wai Wei was trembling all over, she was almost speechless, and when the words came to her lips, she still collapsed and couldn't say them. She turned her head to look at the weak man on the hospital bed. It was obviously difficult to speak, but he was trying his best to use the last time to calculate that the mother and daughter would pave the way for the mistress and the illegitimate child. Yang Weiwei was from a wealthy family, so she naturally saw more of this kind of thing than her peers. What's more, those people had already made the pros and cons clear when they were talking. Even if she didn't quite understand it, she knew that if her parents divorced, it would be like her and her mother being bullied by bad people. I don't agree, Dad, do you really want to divorce my mom? And you want my mom to leave the house? Yang Weiwei looked at Yang Feng with tears in her eyes. When Yang Feng faced Yang Weiwei's eyes, he actually felt guilty for a moment. But think about it, Yang Weiwei at least has Qin Wenqiang as her mother, but what about his other 4 children? He must pave the way for them. Dad, are you really going to leave everything to others? Yang Weiwei shouted. People who do bad things are naturally more sensitive, so Yang Feng's parents were instantly stimulated. Your dad is about to die, what's wrong with planning for us old couple? How can we be others? How can you be so cold and ruthless at such a young age? Are you afraid that others will rob you of your money? Do you still have your dad and us in your heart? Ji Fei, who came to the door, heard this and really cursed in his heart. Aren't you 2 old people afraid that someone will rob you of your money? It's you 3 who don't have Yang Weiwei in your heart, beastly stuff, how can you hang on for so long? The other people in Qin Lao's family were at the door. They were dumbfounded when they heard Ji Fei's explosive voice. After all, Ji Fei was rarely so cruel. How did the 3 people from the Yang family offend Ji Fei? This almost made Ji Fei hate them. They remembered that Ji Fei had said before that Yang Feng had cheated and had an illegitimate child. Could it be related to this matter? Qin Yi was still a little confused. Seeing that they were fierce to Yang Weiwei, he immediately said, What are you talking about? Weiwei is so young, can you mean this? You are thinking about the inheritance when your son is not dead. Do you think others are the same as you? The 2 old people were so angry that their faces were livid, but seeing that their son was really dying, they were sad and anxious. They almost vented all their anger about their son's death. If they didn't have time to sign the agreement, they would be the fish on the chopping board. Immediately shouted at Qin Wenqiang in grief, Why don't you make arrangements quickly? Do you really want my son to die with regrets? After that, the 2 old people really hugged their heads and cried. This is really not acting, after all, the only son is dying, so the people who don't know the truth can't say anything at this moment. Yang Weiwei was still a child, but she was also broken by such an occasion, and she was stunned. She couldn't figure out why. Why on earth? Why did her father, grandparents treat her and her mother like this? Because they were not good. Qin Wenqiang closed her eyes, raised her hand to wipe away her tears, picked up her mobile phone and called a lawyer to come as soon as possible. Qin Yi wanted to say something, but felt that it was the eldest sister's decision, so she didn't intervene. At this time, the 2 old people rushed to the bedside and held their son's hand and cried. Yang Feng seemed to be relieved. At this moment, he felt the fact that he was dying and was also very sad. Ji Fei couldn't help it. He stepped forward and was about to speak, but Qin Xian pulled Ji Fei and said, Cousin, my aunt and uncle are here, you come out first. Qin Yi wanted to say that he would answer it, but met Qin Xian's eyes and was slightly stunned. Qin Wenqiang was actually a little exhausted, so she didn't think much about it. When she turned around, she saw her daughter was still in a daze. She thought that she would have to tell her parents about this bizarre arrangement of divorce later, so she could explain it to her daughter clearly to avoid leaving a psychological shadow. So all the Qin family members in the ward came out. But after coming out, they didn't see anyone else. Qin Wenqiang looked at Qin Xian in confusion, but Qin Xian pushed open the empty ward next to her and motioned her to go in. Originally, Qin Yi and the brothers and sisters of Qin Lao's family wanted to follow in, but they were locked out by Qin Xian. Qin Wenqiang, who entered, looked at the empty room with Yang Weiwei and expressed confusion. Qin Xian didn't say any more nonsense, picked up the phone and handed it to Qin Wenqiang, motioning her to watch. Although it's not recorded in full, I think my cousin should be able to understand what happened, Qin Xian said lightly. Qin Wenqiang took the phone and clicked on the playback. They were all strangers, but as the conversation information was revealed, the blood color on Qin Wenqiang's face gradually faded a little bit, and the red in her eyes seemed to change from the red of grief to the red of anger. She was trembling all over, listening to the last conversation, and shamelessly saying that she could still rely on Yang Weiwei, her half-sister, in the future, and her whole body suddenly fell back. Ji Fei quickly supported her. Mom, Yang Weiwei had come back to her senses when the video was playing, and she cried even harder when she saw her mother like this. This is not true, this is not right, even the most powerful woman cannot easily accept that she has been kept in the dark from beginning to end. But it was not Qin Xian and Ji Fei who answered her. Yang Weiwei, Mom, woo, it's true, I saw it with my own eyes before, they belong to Dad, woo, he is not my dad, he is their dad, he only loves them, not me at all. Mom, woo, I want to stop you, I don't want to give it to them, why? It is obviously something that Mom has worked so hard to save, why should I give it to them, woo. Alas, those so-called inheritances are actually accumulated by relying on the Qin family background and mainly managed by my cousin Yang Feng is at most a senior worker now. Everything he has given his parents is enough. He is really greedy. He even wants to cheat away all the kingdoms that his cousin has worked hard to build, so that his mistresses and illegitimate children outside can enjoy them, and not leave any for his daughter. It can't be more shameless. At this time, although they could not hear the conversation clearly outside the door, the Qin Lao family could barely hear the inner voices. They looked at Qin Yi beside them in astonishment. Qin Yi could not eavesdrop by the door, but seeing their eyes looking at him, he could not help but be curious. What did you hear? The three people looked at each other and dared not say much. After all, they also understood Qin Xian's intention to talk to their cousin alone without them. It is said that it is difficult for a clean official to judge family affairs. Based on the principle of not interfering too much in the fate and cause and effect of others, what they can do is to tell her the truth when their relatives are calculated, and then everything is up to her. After all, what if there is a person who is willing to be the victim of the death of others and is unwilling to reveal the truth for the sake of face? So before the cousin decides, they should pretend to know nothing. Yang Weiwei was incoherently expressing her inner collapse in the house, which was really pitiful. Qin Wenqiang finally understood why Yang Weiwei had suddenly acted so strange in the war just now. Perhaps because a mother is strong, after Qin Wenqiang was forced to accept the reality, she looked at her collapsed daughter and could only grit her teeth and hug her daughter tightly. Don't be afraid, Weiwei, Mom is here. Mom will never let anyone hurt you. Yang Feng, you beast. Hearing what Qin Wenqiang said, Qin Xian and Ji Fei breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Xian said, Cousin, before the lawyer arrives, you should make a decision as soon as possible. If you need any help, just ask. Although Qin Wenqiang had tears in her eyes, they were shining with a very sharp light at this moment. The door of the ward opened again, and the three Yang family members in the room saw Qin Wenqiang coming back. I don't know if there is still a little conscience left. Yang Feng actually wanted to talk to his wife and daughter. I'm sorry for you. If there is an afterlife, I will definitely make it up to you. Qin Wenqiang walked up to Yang Feng and chuckled, "Really? I don't pray for the afterlife, I only hope for this life." Yang Feng was moved and wanted to say something else when he heard Qin Wenqiang say, "By the way, lawyer, I told them not to come. I thought about it. When I, Qin Wenqiang, married you, I swore that I would never leave you. I will only be widowed in this life, and I will never divorce." After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 335. Yang Feng's parents were immediately anxious when they heard this. This was what their son had fought for with his life. How could he go back on his word? "Is it because your parents don't agree? My son is going to die. How can you people from wealthy families be so petty? Ask your parents to come in and talk. I want to see how they dare to speak." The two people had ferocious expressions, and they jumped up and down in all kinds of ugly ways. The others who followed in were disgusted when they saw this. Qin Yi was the most confused among them. He led Yang Weiwei, who lowered her head and kept silent, and couldn't understand his sister's actions at all. Although he also felt that the divorce was outrageous, he knew that Qin Wenqiang was not an emotional person who made promises casually. And Qin Wenqiang didn't care about those assets at all. Since she agreed, why would Qin Wenqiang suddenly change her mind? Qin Yi looked back at Qin Lao's family and saw that they all looked like they were waiting for a good show, and he was even more puzzled. At this time, Yang Feng, who was blinded by Qin Wenqiang's words, gradually found that something was wrong. After all, he had been married to Qin Wenqiang for many years, and he could tell whether his wife was angry or sad. Now Qin Wenqiang was not just angry, but furious, and even looked at him as if she wanted him to die. Yang Feng's lips began to tremble. He was exhausted and had difficulty speaking, but he still asked, "Wife, what's wrong with you? Why suddenly, you know me, I don't really want to divorce you, I know you. After many years of marriage, I know you." Qin Wenqiang murmured, suddenly bent down, approached the patient on the bed, and said in an almost cruel tone, "I know you, you are a good husband and a good father, so everything we fight for together will eventually belong to our daughter, right? You women really only think about money, you." Yang Feng's parents were still cursing, but no one paid any attention to them. Even when they wanted to get close to Qin Wenqiang, Qin Xian and Qin Chao would stand in front of them and stop them from pulling their cousin. The two people who looked extremely noble and imposing were so imposing that the two old men dared not move at all. They could only desperately say something to Yang Feng. But Yang Feng seemed to be unable to hear. A dying person was originally hanging on with one breath, waiting for things to succeed, and now he seemed to realize that what he had planned might not be realized at all. So that breath was about to be broken. "Wife, that is also my hard work, you can't. Qin Wenqiang looked at Yang Feng's hypocritical and pitiful face and smiled, "Since you dare to do it, why can't I? You married the daughter of the Qin family. How can I let the cats and dogs outside take advantage of my daughter? You really look down on me." Yang Feng's face was full of death, as if he was in his last moments. He suddenly opened his eyes wide, not knowing whether he wanted to curse or cry for forgiveness or continue to deceive people. But Qin Wenqiang didn't give him a chance to speak. "Hush, be quiet, look back from the sky and see how I will make all your plans come to nothing." After saying this, everyone present fell silent. It seemed that Yang Feng's parents finally realized something. They had fallen out, so they were exposed. Wenqiang. At this moment, Yang Feng's parents were also panicked and wanted to say something, but the various instruments monitoring Yang Feng's body began to sound alarms. In an instant, the ward was extremely noisy. Qin Wenqiang stepped back coldly, turned around to hug her daughter, and let Yang Feng's parents rush to Yang Feng's bed and cry. Yang Weiwei didn't look at the bed either, just crying. Gradually, everything returned to zero. Qin Yi couldn't grieve anymore when he saw his deceased brother-in-law. He looked extremely ugly. What do you mean? I heard what you just said. Did sister, Yang Feng do something wrong to you outside? Qin Wenqiang's face was full of frost and coldness. She looked at her deceased husband. Finally, she was widowed. With a sneer, she leaned into Qin Yi's ear and said, "Go, help me find the dean, it's time to deal with it." Qin Yi's eyes widened when he heard what Qin Wenqiang told him. Although Qin Lao's family couldn't hear what their siblings were saying, they had Jifei, the golden finger for eating melons. Quick, ruthless, and accurate, she's so good at letting go, she's going to cremate and bury the whole family. The three siblings of Qin Lao's family were shocked. Qin Xian didn't feel surprised. After all, if it's too late, something will happen, and her cousin could still take this into consideration. So when the twins from Qin Sishi's family came with their aunt and uncle, they saw the hospital staff trying to push away the body covered with white cloth, and the in-laws were noisy to stop them. In fact, Yang Feng's parents didn't know Qin Wenqiang's intention, but they couldn't bear to part with their son, so how could they not give them a chance to say goodbye? And since it had been exposed, they thought the grandchildren should come to see their father off. But Qin Wenqiang didn't give them a chance at all. She called the bodyguards to clear the way. By the time the eldest aunt and uncle reacted, the body had been taken away. "What is going on, how?" the eldest aunt asked anxiously, feeling that everything was strange. The uncle was even more worried about the emotions of his daughter and granddaughter. Qin Wenqiang finally took off her disguise when she saw her parents coming, and shed tears in front of her parents. She told them about the grievances she and Wei Wei had suffered. Well, in fact, Qin Wenqiang's decision to agree to Yang Feng's pursuit was also influenced by her parents' feelings. The eldest uncle married into the Qin family, but the couple had always supported each other and never blushed because of a strong woman and a weak man. Therefore, Qin Wenqiang thought that she could also marry and achieve happiness, but the fact hit her hard in the face. Qin Yan and Qin Rong have a deep understanding of each other. They are very similar to Qin Wenqiang. They are both very well protected by the Qin family. They are also witnessed by elders who have a harmonious relationship, so they never think there is anything wrong with finding a man with worse conditions than themselves. They all initially believed that so-called true love can overcome all difficulties. But now they have to admit that the proportion of women who are unlucky when they get married is definitely higher than those who are well matched. Therefore, we cannot use individual examples like my eldest uncle as an illustration. After listening to what Qin Wenqiang said, the aunt and uncle were so angry that their blood pressure rose. If Yang Feng hadn't been dead and gone, they would have pounced on and tore this bastard who had lied to their daughter for many years. They also want to use their daughter's hard-earned money to support the mistress's illegitimate child. It's a beautiful idea. Have you known for a long time that your son cheated on you and raised an illegitimate child? Is it because you want a son? Wen Tun's eldest uncle angrily pointed at Yang Feng's parents and scolded him, "I thought you were not a good person back then, and you were raped as expected. If it is not straight, the beam will be crooked." Humph. They usually let their relatives of the Yang family lie down in our Qin family to suck blood, but you dare to let my daughter off. I think you really don't know how high the sky is, the aunt scolded angrily. Now that they are at odds with each other, the two scoundrels are also at odds with each other. So what? Who told your daughter not to lay eggs? Do we, the Yang family, have to cut off our relationship and become extinct just because we marry your daughter? If your daughter doesn't want to give us a grandson, can't we find a way on our own? After all, it's also your daughter who owes Yang Feng. We didn't let Yang Feng divorce your daughter because we were kind-hearted. Isn't your daughter going too far? She didn't agree to my son's last request and watched my son die. She is simply a femme fatale. Humph, but it doesn't matter. It is my son's inheritance anyway. Even if she can't take them all, and we can get a big share. Damn, these two shameless old immortals, but they probably don't know that now that Yang Feng has turned into ashes, you two are the only ones who can compete with cousin and Wei for the inheritance. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 336. Qin Xian heard Ji Fei's mumbling and raised his lips. That's what happened. Qin Lao's family seemed to understand what Qin Wenqiang had done. But at this moment, Qin Wenqiang did not say anything to alert the enemy, but directly took her relatives away from this unlucky place. Anyway, Yang Feng was left with only a handful of ashes, and he was not worthy of Qin Wenqiang to arrange his funeral. Without Qin Wenqiang, there were naturally mistresses and illegitimate children. They were upset when they learned that they could not get all the inheritance, but they had no choice but to pretend to coax the two old guys to arrange Yang Feng's funeral in order to get more benefits. By the way, she showed up in front of Yang's relatives to prove her and the children's existence, so that when the lawyer came to divide the inheritance, it would save trouble. A pair of domineering old people and a mistress who relied on her beauty to get promoted, it seemed that no one was aware of the legal issues. Some of the relatives of the Yang family have actually realized the problem, but because these people's faces are really disgusting, and they look like they are on guard against them coveting the inheritance, no one is willing to remind them at all. Although it's useless to remind them. On the day of the funeral, many people came. Yang Feng is also a person of some status in the Y City business, so naturally there will be friends in the business circle coming. But as soon as they arrived, they saw the mistress and a group of illegitimate children, and they were all shocked. They really didn't expect Yang Feng to be so brave. The oldest illegitimate child seemed to be only a little younger than the legitimate child. And the mistress received them with the attitude of a hostess, which made them really uncomfortable. Isn't this making them offend the Qin family? But since they are here, they can only bite the bullet and come in. As a result, as soon as they came in, without them asking, Yang Feng's parents denounced Qin Wenqiang, the wife, for not caring about affairs these days, not preparing for the funeral for her husband, and relying on the gentle, kind, and filial mistress to prepare it. Moreover, Yang Wei was also unfilial. She didn't care about her father's death. She was even worse than the four little ones, who stayed with their father and cried every day. In short, they spared no effort to publicize how unbearable Qin Wenqiang and her daughter were, and how dedicated the mistresses and illegitimate children were. But the question is, who is in charge? They are businessmen. Can sympathizing with mistresses and illegitimate children make their future business better? Don't be ridiculous. That's the Qin family. How dare they confront them? They guessed that Qin Wenqiang and her daughter also knew about Yang Feng's dirty tricks that had been hidden for so long, so they left in anger. During the days of preparing for the funeral, Qin Wenqiang did not show her face from beginning to end. Until this moment, she brought her daughter Yang Wei to the scene. Of course, she was followed by a circle of bodyguards. After all, there were more rogues. The Qin family already knew what happened, so naturally no relatives would come to attend the funeral of such a person. Originally, it was thought that only Qin Yi came with his sister. But seeing that another circle of young people came from behind, but just stood at the door and watched, and did not come in to mourn, the relatives of the Yang family were a little confused. They probably didn't expect that someone would come to the funeral to eat melons. Because of this strange situation, The other guests present also became curious, and the originally heavy funeral turned into a scene of eating melons. Wow, the mistress and illegitimate children are all here, so open and above board, it turned out to be right to follow, there is a good show to watch. Except for Chin's father and mother who were with Chin 11 in the old house, everyone else came. The twins from Chin's fourth uncle's family naturally came on their own initiative, and they also wanted to eat melons and watch the fun. Chin Jiaxi was forced to come here by everyone. She is still a little confused. This is the first time she has experienced such a conflict. She originally thought that her cousin would choose to die and forget everything, but she didn't expect that she would come here in such a posture today. Inexplicably, I felt a little hot in my heart. At this time, the morning hall was already lively. Qin Wenqiang confronted the mistress for the first time. The mistress looked pitiful. She didn't talk to Qin Wenqiang. She just pulled the four children and said to Yang Weiwei, hello, let's meet them. They are your brothers and sisters. Today is the first time we meet. From now on, you will only have each other. You must support each other. Without waiting for the mistress to finish, Yang Weiwei, who had already talked to her mother thoroughly, said coldly, Auntie, what are you talking about? I am an only child. Where do I get brothers and sisters? Puff, at first, I was worried that Yang Weiwei would not be able to bear it after seeing those people. I didn't expect that she had become a replica of her mother. Sure enough, a man's betrayal makes a woman evolve even if it is a father and daughter. The effect is remarkable. Poor little Weiwei, she has to bear the pressure that she shouldn't bear at her age. I really want to scatter the ashes of Yang Feng, the scum. Because of the call of Auntie, the whole audience burst into laughter. Xiao San's face turned blue with anger, but she couldn't get angry. She could only say to Qin Wenqiang in embarrassment, Sister Qin, it's all my fault, but the children are innocent. They are the closest in the world. You should make it clear to Weiwei. Yang Feng always said that he hoped the children could help each other. After all, they have blood flowing in their bodies. Before Xiao San finished speaking, the slap came late. The two slaps that resounded through the morning hall slapped Xiao San to the ground fiercely. A group of people exclaimed, and the illegitimate children shouted even more. The oldest boy rushed directly to Qin Wenqiang, but was slapped by Yang Weiwei, who had been eager to try. When they wanted to make a scene, the bodyguards stood in front of them to deter them. No one dared to step forward at once. They could only hear crying and cursing. Humph. When you are a mistress, aren't you ready to be beaten? Why are you crying? Qin Wenqiang looked at the mistress with a sneer and said, who else asked you to call me sister? Your cerebellum is still wrapped? Do you really want to live in ancient times and be a concubine? No, 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 she is like an outsider at most, not a concubine. The Qin family wanted to laugh, but they still maintained their temperament and ate quietly. Qin Wenqiang, are you still making trouble here? Do you still want my son to go away peacefully? Granny Yang immediately said excitedly. Why should I hope that he can leave peacefully? Is he worthy? Qin Wenqiang asked directly. Eunuch Yang turned directly to Yang Weiwei and said, Weiwei, don't be brainwashed by your mother. They are really your brothers and sisters. You have to recognize them. Yang Weiwei's eyes gradually filled with hatred when she looked at her grandparents, because she had heard the group's lawyer say before that children born in wedlock have the obligation to support their younger siblings who were born out of wedlock. She couldn't bear the thought of her grandparents saying these words on this occasion. I told you, I don't have any younger siblings, so what do you think they are? Where's the evidence? Yang Weiwei said directly. This statement made the law illiterates present stunned for a moment. What evidence? Is there any good evidence for this? At this time, the lawyer who happened to divide the property came. Qin Wenqiang smiled coldly and said, Weiwei, Yang Feng's parents and I are all legally qualified to participate in the division of inheritance, but others who want to participate must provide evidence. Oh, by the way, evidence is not something that anyone can just talk about. You said they are my Weiwei's younger siblings, which means they are Yang Feng's children. So, is there a paternity test? Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target. Type, mix. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yu. Chapter 337. Qin Wenqiang's words made the group of people fall into dead silence. As if she finally realized that something was wrong, the mistress didn't care about pretending to be weak. With tears still on her face, she rushed to the lawyer and asked, "Lawyer, you are Yang Feng's lawyer. You know they are all Yang Feng's children, right? There is no problem for them to participate in the division of the inheritance, right? You can't deliberately break the law because you are afraid of the Qin family." The lawyer was also sweating in front of the mistress. "Madam, we will naturally act in accordance with the law, but if it is true as Ms. Qin said, these children have not done paternity testing with Mr. Yang Feng, you can't participate in the division of the inheritance." Oh, it turns out that this lawyer has met the mistress in the past. Yang Feng often asked this lawyer to help deal with the house and finances for the mistress and the illegitimate children, but due to the principle of confidentiality, the lawyer would not tell Qin Wenqiang. Relatively speaking, he would not help the mistress break the law at this time, but just do everything according to the regulations. After listening to this, Qin Lao's family understood why Xiaosin was so relieved before. It turned out that she knew a lawyer. She must have thought that the lawyer was on her side, but he was just an employee. Although the twins next to them did not hear Ji-Fei's voice, they were also excitedly discussing it. Big cousin is really amazing. She was able to calm down and think so much at that time, and made a quick decision, and killed it, Qin Xiao said. It's a pity that Yang Feng died too quickly. If there was enough time, big cousin would definitely divorce them completely and let them leave the house. It's a pity that now they have to share the property with two old guys. It's disgusting to think about it, Qin Jing also said. Although Qin Jiaxi on the side had been quiet all the time, she couldn't help but recall the situation at that time. After thinking about it carefully, she was also full of admiration. Before, big cousin agreed to divorce immediately and leave the house because she was willing to cooperate, but what if the situation was reversed? The eldest cousin caught the evidence of her husband's cheating and asked him to leave the house. Yang Feng would definitely not agree. Anyway, he had no chance to sue the eldest cousin. Since he could not cheat all the inheritance, he could also distribute it according to the law, so the eldest cousin was destined to be a widow and could not divorce. After the eldest cousin understood her situation, she began to think of ways to gain the greatest benefits for herself and her daughter in the case of widowhood. Qin Jiaxi felt that if it were her, she would definitely hide in the corner and feel sad and upset, and she didn't want to care about anything. Qin Jiaxi didn't understand and murmured, "Is this meaningful?" Although she spoke very quietly and was just asking herself, people around her still heard it. Of course. It's a relief. If anyone dares to treat me as a fool, I will beat him into a fool, Qin Xiao said. If I don't live well, others won't live well either. Without love, do we have to give money to others? Isn't that too aggrieved? Qin Yan laughed. That's right, love is illusory, true and false, but money is something that belongs to you, Qin Rong also said seriously. Qin Jiaxi was stunned when she heard these remarks. Is it? Qin Xiao's personality has always been like this, but Qin Yan and Qin Rong were not like this before. Qin Xian and Qin Xiaojian said this as if they heard Ji Fei talking. At this time, Ji Fei was still watching the show attentively. The lawyer's remarks had completely exploded over there. Who would have thought of doing a paternity test from the beginning? Yang Feng died so quickly, it was too late. The first reaction of the third brother was to grab the urn. That action made everyone present drop their jaws. Yang Feng's parents did not stop him, but actually watched Qin Wenqiang who might come to grab it. The lawyer looked at this funny scene, and his mouth twitched. Everyone, don't bother, the ashes can't be identified. In other words, unless Mr. Yang Feng's body is still there, the sample identification will have legal effect, and nothing else will work. At this moment, Xiao San finally reacted and looked at Qin Wenqiang in shock and anger. You did it on purpose, so that's why, you knew from the beginning that you deliberately cremated Yang Feng so quickly. Just to grab the inheritance. Yang Feng's parents also understood, and immediately began to pat their chests, crying and shouting, and cursing Qin Wenqiang. I was wondering why you were so cruel back then. You were plotting against us here. My poor son was burned by you, a vicious woman. Our son is dead, and you are still so cruel. You want to destroy the inheritance of our Yang family. Qin Wenqiang sneered and said, you are only allowed to plot against me to divorce and trick me out of the house, and use the money I worked hard to earn to raise illegitimate children for your Yang family, but I am not allowed to fight back. The other guests present did not expect there was such a melon, and they immediately started to discuss excitedly. They originally thought that Qin Wenqiang was so angry that she immediately cremated the body after learning that her husband had cheated on her, but they did not expect it was for today's scene. Everyone had to sigh. As expected, President Qin's methods were ruthless, not comparable to Yang Feng's level. Didn't you want the money she earned to raise an illegitimate child? Then she would completely deprive the illegitimate child of his inheritance rights. Lawyer, we can prove it, and be firm with us, Yang Feng's parents suddenly shouted. We only have Yang Feng as an only child. If we prove that they are our grandchildren, can we? Qin Wenqiang sneered. No, said the lawyer. Then let Yang Weiwei and them identify it. If it is proven that they are brothers and sisters. Xiao San said immediately. Yang Feng's parents immediately looked at Yang Weiwei excitedly, and their eyes wanted to pull Yang Weiwei away immediately. Yang Weiwei said, do I have an obligation to cooperate with you? After that, she turned to the lawyer and said, Uncle, if I don't want to, they can't force me, right? The lawyer wiped his sweat. It's your right not to do the identification. After that, seeing the unfriendly eyes of those people, the lawyer had to remind them to avoid some people making trouble for him. Even if the secret identification is successful, it will not be effective. It will only work if you are completely willing to cooperate with the identification. This almost blocked all the tricks they could think of. The three brothers and one sister, although young, already knew a lot. They all looked at Yang Weiwei with fierce eyes. Yang Weiwei was not afraid at all, and rolled her eyes at them. The meaning was very clear. Don't even think about it. Dreaming is faster. Next, whether it was the curses of Yang Feng's parents or the pity of the mistress crying, it would not shake Yang Weiwei at all. Gradually, they also knew that the mother and daughter were determined not to let them have a good life, so they could only look at them viciously. Seeing that the situation was almost settled, the lawyer was about to announce the division of the estate when he heard Qin Wenqiang shout, by the way, Yang Feng's estate is not complete yet. You may have underestimated it. For example, the money he spent on others without my knowledge has not yet been recovered. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 338. The lawyer was stunned and realized something instantly. Qin Wenqiang sneered and said to the mistress, I want to recover the joint property that my late husband used on the mistress. After that, ask the secretary to hand over the prepared list to the lawyer. At this time, the mistress really couldn't stand it anymore. She roared crazily, why do you have it? You can't do it. It's his child. You have no right to take it back. You. Originally, the inability to inherit her own child had already driven Xiao San crazy. Now he told her that even what she now owned and spent on their family would be recovered, and she would have to go bankrupt. And that's Yang Feng's child. Why can the money spent on the child be required to be recovered? But when the mistress looked at the lawyer, she knew that Qin Wenqiang was not just talking. If your children's identities cannot be identified, then Ms. Qin can indeed recover them. The lawyer announced cruelly. Obviously everything is stuck in Yang Feng's cremation. Xiaosan was going crazy, and Xiaosan's brother couldn't believe it, and immediately said, "Sister, don't be afraid, we are going to a lawsuit. I don't believe that I can't spend money to raise my son." Qin Wenqiang sneered and said, "It doesn't matter. You can grind this part slowly. The result will be the same anyway." The mistress cried directly and said to Yang Feng's parents, "Mom and Dad, look, they are trying to force us to death. Okay, no matter what, I don't want anything anymore. I'll take the child and leave. That's all right." Yang Feng's parents were already trembling with anger, and they were instantly taken advantage of when they heard what Xiaosan said. "No, my precious grandchildren can't leave. Don't worry, your parents will make the decision for you," Grandma Yang shouted immediately. Eunuch Yang tried his best to maintain calm and went forward to discuss with the lawyer. Even if the lawyer didn't tell the truth, Eunuch Yang actually knew that the outcome might not be good. Eunuch Yang pointed at Qin Wenqiang with trembling hands and said, "Are you really going to be so cruel?" Qin Wenqiang hugged her daughter and sneered, "I just took back what belongs to our mother and daughter. You and your family are treating me like a fool. Didn't you know that such a day would come?" Eunuch Yang was so angry that he almost twisted his mouth, and finally said angrily, "Okay, very good, let me tell you, from now on, our Yang family will not recognize you as your wife, nor will we recognize this disobedient stinky girl. From now on, we are from the Yang family. You want to recover your property and take revenge? We can't." Grandma Yang also immediately said, "Yes, anyway, we have a share of our son's inheritance, and the money will not be less. We have to use the money you work together to support them. I am so angry with you, a poisonous woman." Qin Yi on the side was so angry that he wanted to punch someone. "It seems that you know very well who has contributed the most to their joint property. How can you have the nerve to say such shameless words? I think Yang Feng's death so early is retribution." With one sentence, this group of people immediately became angry and noisy again. Tisk, tisk, look at the faces of these people, they are still so tenacious, they have already fallen twice. Do they think my cousin has not considered this? Several people from Qin Lao's family who were also angry at first looked puzzled when they heard this. In fact, they all felt that they could only endure the last bit of anger. Could it be that the eldest cousin had other tricks? Although Ji Fei didn't reveal it. But everyone agreed that Qin Xian would definitely know. After all, in terms of brains in this area, Qin Xian was the most powerful here. So everyone turned their curious eyes to Qin Xian. Qin Xian thought for a while, and if he wanted to be more ruthless, there was indeed a way. Long Fengtai and Qin Jiaxi looked puzzled when they saw them all looking at Qin Xian. The next second, he saw that Qin Xian couldn't resist the curious gaze of the melon eaters, and said helplessly, "Maybe the eldest cousin will induce them to give up other things when dividing the inheritance, as long as, the company. The twins have the sharpest business sense present." "That company that wants you to join the investment project?" Qin Jing asked. "I remember it seemed that Yang Feng opened a company in his name independently of the Qin family," Qin Xiao said. Qin Xiao smiled, "It seems that this company is a trap, or a big trap." Ji Fei, who heard their conversation, immediately looked at Qin Xian in surprise and admiration. This expression immediately let those who heard his heart know that Qin Xian had guessed correctly. And soon, Qin Wenqiang also gave the answer. The recovered ones will be calculated separately, and the existing ones will be divided first. Qin Wenqiang didn't wait for anyone to speak, and said first, I don't need the others, but Yang Feng's latest company must be given to me. Such a sentence instantly made those people understand that this company must be valuable, otherwise Qin Wenqiang would not compete with them. After all, Qin Wenqiang had an attitude of not leaving anything good to them before. In addition, Yang Feng had been bragging to them before, saying how valuable the company was. It was the capital he would use to fight against the Qin family once the Qin family discovered the illegitimate child, which made Yang Feng's parents and Xiao Sanmen think that the company must be very profitable. Considering Qin Wenqiang's current attitude, the two elders said immediately without saying a word, that won't work, we also want this company. After saying this, Qin Wenqiang's face turned ugly as expected, we will exchange our share of the inheritance to this company. But the more Qin Wenqiang behaved like this, the more the two elders refused to let go. Although Xiaosan preferred assets that could be seen, Xiaosan's younger brother stopped his sister's hesitation. After all, with the company, he could be the boss, so he was very supportive of the two elders, and even added fuel to the fire, making the company ridiculous. Seeing that Qin Wenqiang was determined not to give it up, the two old people started to play the emotional card. That was Yang Feng's last effort. We are not like you. We value feelings. We only want this. The rest are your Qin family's things. Only this belongs to our Yang family. You can't take it? Just give us the company, and we don't need the other inheritances. After the old man finished acting, the mistress and the children also started acting, saying that it was Yang Feng's left to them, and he said it himself. If Qin Wenqiang took it away, it would force Yang Feng to die with his eyes open. Until this moment, the Qin family members who were waiting at the door to eat melons could hardly hold back their laughter. But Qin Wenqiang continued to act, and even Yang Weiwei cooperated with her. Mom, we don't want that kind of thing. Qin Wenqiang took a deep breath, made an embarrassed expression, and finally said with a look of reluctance, okay, I can agree to this distribution, but I have a request. The group looked at Qin Wenqiang defensively, as if they were afraid that she would play some tricks on the company distribution and cheat them. Then Qin Wenqiang said, I want Weiwei's household registration to be moved out of the Yang family, and I want you to sign an agreement to sever ties with Weiwei. Weiwei is no longer your granddaughter. Your future retirement issues have nothing to do with Weiwei. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 339. Qin Wenqiang's request naturally made the two elders uncomfortable, and the mistress was not too happy either. Although they had spoken harshly during the quarrel, they knew in their hearts that as long as they had such a granddaughter, they would not have to worry about it in their lives. They are the bond. When Yang Weiwei grows up, she will have to look after her grandparents and take care of her younger siblings. This is not something that cold laws can change. Weiwei is still a member of our old Yang family after all. What you did is so unethical, eunuch Yang said. Qin Wenqiang once again saw their shamelessness, and was very moved. Was she blind all those years ago? Why didn't I see that they were so inhuman? Yang Weiwei was even more angry. She opened her big eyes and said, you just said that you don't recognize me. Doesn't it count that you can speak now that you are older? Grandma Yang immediately said, we were just made angry by your mother. You are so young, what do you know? Of course Yang Weiwei understood. She knew that these shameless relatives wanted to take advantage of her for the rest of her life, and she wouldn't do anything. You didn't like me before, but now you want to rely on me to provide for you in the future. I don't know anything. Yang Weiwei's eyes turned red with anger, and she said aggrievedly but firmly, "But you won't if you succeed, I will not support you even if you die. If you are not convinced, you will go to court to sue me in the future." Seeing Yang Weiwei being so hostile to them, Yang Feng's parents were very angry and wanted to reprimand Yang Weiwei. Qin Wenqiang interrupted directly, "You don't agree, do you? Well, lawyers, we insist on fighting for that company, they don't know how to operate it, I think it is the most reasonable to award it to us." When Qin Wenqiang said this, the third brother panicked. He wanted to take over the company the most. After all, other inheritances were still a layer away from him, and he could get direct access to the company. To put it another way, even if the business is not doing well, it will definitely be worth a lot if you sell it. After all, my brother-in-law had talked about going public before. Doesn't it usually cost several hundred million to go public? It is much more valuable than other inheritances. He immediately said to Yang Feng's parents, "You guys grab it quickly. There is a company here, and money begets money. It's better than those dead things. Don't you believe in the wealth that my brother-in-law left us? He spent a lot of effort to get it, and it's useless for you to hold on to Yang Weiwei. She blames you so much now, and will she still remember to be filial to you in the future? You already have the grandchildren that my sister gave birth to, and you still care about missing one. Don't lose more than you gain." The mistress was also a little hesitant. She thought more simply. The inheritance was said to be given to Yang Feng's parents, but they were both old after all. If one of them accidentally died prematurely, then in name Yang Weiwei would be better than Yang Feng's parents. Your own children have more inheritance rights. Therefore, it would actually be more beneficial for her children if Yang Weiwei severed ties with them, and the mistress also felt that according to Qin Wenqiang's attitude, her children might not really be able to count on Yang Weiwei as a sister in the future. Thinking about this, Xiaosin also began to persuade Yang Feng's parents. Yang Feng's parents were greatly shaken by the persuasion. Looking at Yang Weiwei's eyes of hatred towards them, they must be so rebellious. They must have been immature, so they had to forget it, and what if they declared to sever the relationship? If something happens in the future, Yang Weiwei can still watch and ignore them, and the media will scold her to death. The more Yang Feng's parents thought about it, the more they realized it was the case. They immediately nodded in agreement, wrote a consent form to sever ties, and at Qin Wenqiang's request, recorded a video to notarize it. This time the inheritance was finally divided successfully. Congratulations! The dust has settled, ha 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 ha. Watched a good show. Although the other Qin family members are also happy, they are also left with suspense in their hearts, wondering whether it will go smoothly in the future. The great drama came to an end, and everyone present was exhausted. After seeing the shamelessness of the Yang family, I thought that I would never cooperate with them in the future. If I got involved, it would be unimaginable trouble. So basically from this moment on, the new company they took over will be unable to move forward. Qin Wenqiang did not waste time and did not want to take Yang Weiwei to the funeral. She directly asked eunuch Yang to follow her and move Yang Weiwei's household registration. This time, the other Qin family members did not follow, but not long after returning to the old house, they heard the news that not only had their household registration been moved out, but Yang Weiwei had changed her surname on the spot. The old man heard that with a big wave, he wanted to have a lively night to celebrate Qin Weiwei. They should all be there, after all, the divorce of my eldest cousin is a big deal. As a result, Uncle Qin came alone. Mr. Qin frowned and asked, and Uncle Qin could only bite the bullet and said, "Xuanhuan still has to lie down to raise the fetus. Xuanhuan is safer at home." Mr. Qin was a good man, so he naturally saw some problems and didn't ask too many questions. But when Uncle Qin entered the bustling living room, he was stunned for a moment. Because his daughter, who always shrank to the side silently, was sitting in the middle of the crowd this time. Although she did not speak, Her eyes were no longer covered by bangs, but looked brightly at the brothers and sisters talking lively around her. The face that had almost no expression at first would keep changing its expression as others spoke. When I heard about changing my surname, Yang Feng's father couldn't hold back his face. It's so funny. He obviously favors boys over girls and doesn't care about us Wei at all. But when he wanted to change his surname, it was as if he was going to die. Qinyi, he sneered and said, "Fortunately, my eldest sister had the foresight to let him come over. If I let that old woman over, I might have gotten into trouble." Everyone laughed. Just then, seeing Uncle Qin coming over, he immediately stopped talking and greeted him. But Uncle Qin saw that his daughter froze in an instant, and looked behind him cautiously, and was relieved until she saw nothing. Uncle Qin's heart suddenly skipped a beat, and he remembered that when he was at home before, because his daughter didn't come back, his family members talked with resentment towards her, and he felt suffocated, and his face couldn't help but sink. However, he still told the protagonist of tonight, his niece Qin Wenqiang, why the others didn't come. Qin Wenqiang smiled indifferently, and also cared about the health of the elders. Others just felt a little weird, but she is now an elderly mother, so it's hard to say anything. But Qin Lao's family ate fresh melons. It's amazing, because Aunt San and Xuanhuan wanted to bring this green tea bitch to dinner together, but they were rejected by Uncle San, so they got angry and didn't come. Really give them face. My cousin is getting divorced, and Wei's change of surname has nothing to do with outsiders. She even has the nerve to say that she wants to bring someone else with her. She really doesn't know what she's talking about. After The Wife of a Wealthy Family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 340. Qin Lao's family showed contempt after hearing the truth. Qin Han remembered the results of the recent investigation, which showed that Xuan was indeed a child of the welfare home sponsored by his third aunt, and Qin Han knew her because of this. But the third aunt is particularly special to Xuan. She is not an ordinary subsidized orphan at all, but she is raised outside as an adopted daughter, taking care of her from time to time and giving her a steady stream of money. It's just that the third uncle doesn't know this either. After all, the third uncle doesn't care much about the trivial matters at home and concentrates on his career. If it weren't for the judgment of time, Xuan could never be the third aunt's child, and Qin Xian would have suspected that it was another illegitimate daughter. However, Qin Xian still asked people to focus on investigating Xuan's biological parents. If it were not related to Xuan's parents, there would be no reason for the third aunt to do such an outrageous thing. Of course, in addition to this, Qin Xian also investigated the melons that Ji Fei had not dug deeply, and found them accidentally. For example, the reason why Qin Han defended Xuan so much was because Xuan was already Qin Han's, and their room opening records were compiled and handed over to Qin Xian. Qin Xian has no interest in exposing their relationship. After all, they are both single on the surface, but if they want to enter the Qin family as adopted daughters, these records are the most favorable evidence against them. The third uncle asked Qin Jiaxi how she was living here these days. The implication was that he probably wanted to ask her if she wanted to go home. In fact, his wife and son had asked him to take Qin Jiaxi home, but the third uncle didn't want to speak now, he just wanted to hear what his daughter meant. In the past, Qin Jiaxi must have made arrangements with her family, but now, she raised her head and said, "No. No need, I will spend more time with my cousins. It is rare for them to come over, and there are only a few days left for the holiday. I will go back then. School is in session and I don't have much time to spend with my sisters." The implication is that this little time is all given to relatives and not to family members. Uncle Qin finally understood that their family had a big problem. He should have a good talk with his daughter when he has time later. After Qin Jiaxi finished dealing with her father, she wanted to quickly return to the lively environment. At this time, her phone vibrated, and Qin Jiaxi carefully took it out and looked at it, really afraid of seeing the blaming and cursing messages from her mother and brother. But after taking a quick look, I couldn't help but curl up my lips. It's her boyfriend, Susie. Because they went abroad, they had been disconnected for many days. Finally got in touch. As a result, I clicked on the message and saw, "What are you doing? Why are you bullying Uxin? You are the eldest lady of the Qin family, and she is a poor orphan. How about you not being able to see her like this? I don't like you, it's very unkind. You have disappointed me. I hope this is the last time. Don't stop your father from adopting Uxin. Go home with your father today, correct your mistakes, and work together to find a way for the Qin family to adopt Uxin." Qin Jiaxi froze. Since she started dating Suzy, she would occasionally feel sad when Suzy criticized her in such a harsh tone, and then desperately reflected on herself. After all, her mother and brother both liked Uxin, but Suzy chose her. She felt that she only had Suzy. But when she desperately wanted to call back and apologize immediately, she heard laughter coming from the hall. "I am the daughter of the Qin family. If Wei Wei and I can do anything wrong, it must be them. You will know later. The public relations of our branch of the Qin group are not vegetarians. Just wait and see the show," Qin Wenqiang said arrogantly. Qin Jiaxi was stunned for a moment, remembering the scenes she had witnessed in the past few days. Suddenly the information felt very dazzling, and she suddenly didn't understand it. "I don't know where you heard the news. I never stopped anything. It was the Qin family's decision. And aren't you my boyfriend? Why did you accuse me of something wrong without asking me anything? Why did you? Are you familiar with helping Uxin like this?" Qin Jiaxi sent the message with her heart pounding, and waited for a long time before receiving the message. "What are you thinking about? I'm only speaking out because Uxin is as close to you and your brother as family. Isn't she your mother's savior? I don't want to repay kindness. You make mistakes again and again, and I'm guiding you in the right direction. Look, you don't even believe what I say now." Qin Jiaxi suddenly felt aggrieved. It was because of the so-called life-saving grace that she couldn't resist Uxin entering the Qin family, because once she resisted, it would seem like she was being unfilial. But I remembered how no matter what my eldest cousin did, the others would stand behind her without hesitation. Qin Jiaxi suddenly felt that even with such a boyfriend that the whole school envied, she still felt very lonely. There was another sound from down the hall. "We can't guess it, but the second brother can definitely guess it." "That's right, if my cousin continues to lie, we will ask the second brother directly." Qin Jiaxi looked at the replies again and seemed to see an air of indescribable arrogance. She felt confused and couldn't help but reply, "My cousin is the head of the Qin family and the person in charge of the Qin group. My father doesn't object to anything he doesn't agree with. I follow his words. Is it the wrong direction?" After sending the sentence, Qin Jiaxi came to her senses and hurriedly put away her phone. She didn't dare to imagine the other party's reply. She felt that Suzy would be angry. This was the first time that she had criticized Suzy, and she was very uncomfortable with it. But she felt that she was right. On the other side of the phone, Suzy did not reply, because the moment he saw the reply, he smashed the phone. Isn't that a mockery of him? Qin Xian's name is well known in Y City. What Qin Jiaxi meant was that how could Qin Xian's decision be wrong? What right did Suzy have to say that others needed his correction? In short, the eldest son of the Su family was very angry that night. And the hall had already started to eat the follow-up melons of his cousin's divorce. It was not until after 8 o'clock, when the entertainment network in Y City was the busiest, that a headline of rich family gossip was released. The eldest daughter of the Qin family tore the mistress at the funeral and pulled her daughter to break off relations with her grandparents. Then the cause and effect, the scumbag's calculations, the photos of the mistress's family at the scene, and the most important notarized video of the grandparents announcing the severance of relations with Xuanhuan were explained. This time, the internet went crazy. After a while, the tone of public opinion was set, and the call from Yang Feng's parents was directly rejected. They suddenly realized that even if they wanted to sever the relationship, they couldn't sever the blood relationship. They could still kidnap Xuanhuan with family affection in the future. If Xuanhuan didn't obey, they could use public opinion to force her to bow her head. But now the whole network is scolding them for what they deserved, saying that it's better to break up. They can't imagine whether they can really get what they want in the future. The Qin family laughed after eating the melon. This is to use public opinion to block all their retreat routes in advance, so they can't use moral kidnapping in the future.